Hi, I'm Gianna, and this was the kind of day I romanticized when I was 16. I would just get lost in the massive aisles of Goodwill and Barnes & Nobles with absolutely no concept of time, and then I'd grab dinner at Chili's and leave with my hair smelling like fajitas, and I would know that I had the perfect day. But now I'm 32, and I feel like I have these expectations for my weekend, like I need to be doing something exciting or going to a cool new cafe for it to be worthwhile. But when I was 16, these basic outings were my whole life. They were freedom, and they were the highlights of my week, and I'm just starting to think that I was onto something.
All right, we've made it to the Goodwill, and the parking lot is, I think, 4 times the size of the Goodwill by me. The Goodwill is enormous, so I'm really excited to go inside. Back in high school, I would always thrift my clothes from Goodwill, so I'll peek at the clothes today, but I'm working on redoing my office/hobby room, so I'm looking for like a TV stand, a bookcase, so we'll see how their furniture stuff is looking.
I feel like I was really spoiled because the Goodwill where I grew up was such a gold mine. I remember sophomore year of high school, my wardrobe was mostly Abercrombie & Fitch and Hollister. Like, I was wearing a different polo every single day of the week, and I just needed a change, so I started thrifting. And I found so many unique printed shirts, like from the 90s with all kinds of patterns and really good quality sweaters. I thrifted the sweater I'm wearing here 15 years ago. Like, what are you talking about? And it still looks great. Look who I found! I just feel like I was really lucky because when I went to New York City for college, like, don't get me wrong, the thrifting was really great. There were a lot of gems to be found, but it was definitely more competitive, and there was a lot of trial and error to find the best spots. And thrift stores in big cities are so much smaller, and I can only inhale dust and squeeze past strangers for so long. These days, I mostly thrift physical media. I'm working on growing my collection of TV shows in particular, but this outing has given me the itch to give thrifting for clothes another shot.
Nothing doing today, unfortunately, but that Goodwill was even bigger than I expected. Almost too big. I could not possibly wander every single rack, but I looked at like the home goods and stuff, and if you needed like plates or little dishes, I would definitely come back here. Also, there was basically no furniture section to speak of, which was disappointing, so I'll have to go back to scouring Facebook Marketplace, which is not my favorite. But now we're gonna head to Barnes & Noble's, where I'm gonna do my browsing so that I can find titles that I want to put on loan from the library. I've been doing this for the last like couple months, and it has been so nice. But the Barnes & Noble's by me is microscopic, like you're elbow to elbow with everyone looking at the new releases, and I want that suburban Barnes & Noble's that's sprawling, that has like a cafe and leather armchairs. So let's see if that's that kind of Barnes & Noble here.
Hey, I just got this from the library. So they do have a cafe, but it's all like hard wooden chairs. They don't want you sitting too long. When I would go to Barnes & Noble's in high school, I would do like SAT studying there, test studying there, in those big cozy couches. I was there all the time. It was nice. When I was in high school, I would exclusively get the loaded fries, but now I've become addicted to these mozzarella sticks, and we're doing the triple dipper today. We have the classic chips and salsa here, which I feel like were free when I was younger, and now it costs money. It costs like $12, but I'm certain they're just as good as I remember. All right, we got some honey chipotle crisper tenders, some regular mozzarella sticks, and these little slider things. Oh, thank you. Wow, and more chips, which we totally needed. Okay, if I ranked our triple dipper choices, I think it would be mozzarella sticks, the chicken tenders, and then the sliders are real close 2/3, but the mozzarella sticks just clears everything. Will? You're just nodding. Okay. Well, I can't believe when you order the mozzarella sticks by itself, it comes with like 5 of them. It's insane. That's probably like 2 people's days worth of calories. But now we're gonna eat our second basket of chips and probably go into a food coma, but I'll catch up with you later. Out of all of the casual chains, except for Red Lobster, but that's like a fancy chain, I think Chili's is my absolute favorite, and to this day it is such a good deal. I can't believe that we split an appetizer and salsa and chips, and I feel like, I don't know, I'm set for the next like 2 days and my tummy is so full. I can't imagine eating an entree after all of that, or a chocolate lava cake. I can't believe I used to do that back in the day. Teen metabolisms are just built different. Anyway, this suburban adventure has surpassed my expectations. It just feels like so cozy and kind of like I've gone home to the suburbs where I grew up outside of Atlanta. I've lived in cities since I graduated high school and haven't been back to the suburbs except when I'm visiting my mom, so it's nice that I can go a little outside of Chicago and get that suburban experience, and let's romanticize the suburbs. I'm curious, if you live in the suburbs, let me know. Are you tired of living in the suburbs? Do you find it romantic at all? But now it's back to reality. I'm going to go actually to the H Mart here and do some grocery shopping and poke around. It's supposed to be a lot bigger than my Korean supermarket that's near me and that everyone knows about, so it's packed no matter what time of day you go. But thank you so much for escaping to the suburbs with me today for this vlog. It has been so fun stretching my legs and just basking in the nostalgia. My perfect weekend in high school would not have been complete without baking something. So I'm gonna make some scones today. I've been working my way through this breakfast bakes cookbook. In high school, I was mostly making cupcakes, and it was really about decorating them for me. I would pipe to my heart's content and then bring them in and share them on Monday in class. It just made me so happy. Now I mostly just eat all of the treats myself. Let's attempt a scone. I'm very nervous about this, but we'll see how it goes. So far, this cookbook has not let me down. Unlike all the TikTok recipes that I try and follow, I need to cut that out. I really think it took my mom moving away from where I grew up for me to really appreciate it. Not that I was ever super unappreciative about it, but by the time I was in high school, like senior year, I was like, I've got to get out of here. I need to go to a city and be around like lots of different people. And I grew up in a really diverse suburb, for what it's worth, outside of Atlanta. I think it was like 40 something percent white people and then 20 something, 20 something percent black people, like 20 something Hispanic, 5% Asian. By all accounts, it was pretty diverse, but that's where schools get weird. Like my neighborhood where I grew up was pretty mixed, but then when I got to school and was taking AP classes, it was like, okay, it's 99% white people here. So as much as I liked my little community, I was really looking forward to going off to college in a big city and being around lots of different people from backgrounds that I wasn't even familiar with. I just wanted that exposure so badly. So, you know, sometimes I think about like, oh, if I had a kid, would I end up moving back to the suburbs? And I think having access to like diverse viewpoints and different kinds of cultures is like my number one priority. So it'd have to be a pretty well-rounded suburb, and that's just not how a lot of them are built in America. Even Chicago as a city is still pretty segregated. Like in my neighborhood, I could go to a restaurant that's completely full and be the only black person there, which is kind of crazy. Urban planning, that's what some people wanted out of the city. They wanted some people one place and other people a different place, and they got it. I just sifted this flour 3 times. I've never done that before. This is going to be Santana featuring Rob Thomas. It is going to be so smooth. I have never used a food processor. I have never used a food processor before, so I'm a little nervous, and this is probably too much stuff for this food processor, but we're gonna give it a try anyway. Yeah, that food processor was really at its limit, but now I can roll out the dough and start making my little scones. And my nail polish is super chipped, so I'm glad it's just gonna be me and Will eating this, because if I eat my own nail polish, who cares? I'm gonna add a cup of chocolate chips, but I'm gonna do mini ones this time. I've been doing just the regular size, but I think mini would be perfect in scones. That seems like a lot more chocolate chips than I thought. I'm just gonna do this much. The mini chocolate chips want to run free so badly. I think my favorite thing about growing up in the suburbs was being able to drive everywhere. Once I got my license, it was just me and the road, and I'm very directionally hopeless, I'd say. I just knew how to get to my school, the big mall, and the little mall, and that was basically all I needed. Oh, and Publix. And I like that I had that freedom, even though I couldn't remember anything else. That was really all I needed at 16. And I had a CD player in my car. I made mix CDs for my friends. Now I have to listen to music while I'm working, which doesn't always vibe with my ADHD. Or I just go weeks without really listening to music. Cooking now is when I really get to listen to new music. But I just like that I had that time to just vibe and be on my own. Also, I just found it less scary driving in the suburbs. I could not drive in the city. Definitely couldn't have driven in New York. And now in Chicago, even the drivers are just kind of insane, and I do not want to do it. I was trying to like get my driving legs back and did some practicing last year in like February, and then in April I was in a car accident and I was like, okay, well, that's done. Passenger princess it is. Okay, we're not totally smooth yet, but we're almost there. All right, let's roll you out. I think the other thing that I miss about suburbs, and maybe this is just like more of a nostalgia thing because third spaces are kind of disappearing every day, but it felt like I could just have a full day and go bop around town and I didn't have to spend any money if I didn't want to. But like today I went to Goodwill, I just browsed around, Barnes & Noble's, browsed around, didn't spend any money, and I didn't feel pressured because every place I went into was so big. And even though it was full of other people, I didn't feel like, oh, I'm taking up space and people are watching me and are like, is she gonna buy anything? Which I can sometimes feel in like a really tiny bookstore or like a small thrift store or vintage store. Some of these pieces look like they're gonna have a lot more chocolate chips than the others. Is this 10 inches? Okay, this is looking kind of legit now. My expectations have been raised. Okay. I'm gonna freeze half of these and bake the other 4, and they need to rest in the fridge for like 20 to 30 minutes for maximum deliciousness, which I would like. So let's do that. Okay, they're ready to go in. Let's see how they turn out. These look absolutely unreal. I cannot believe I have made scones for the first time. Even if they taste terrible, they are still technically scones, so I'm congratulating myself for that. This just feels like the perfect way to end the day, doing a little hobby that I've had since I was a teen, and now it's just a little more mature. I'm actually making lots of things from scratch, and it feels really great. But I'm just feeling so grateful that I get to live in a city and still be so close to the suburbs and do all the things that I did when I was younger. I really get to have the best of both worlds. I'm hoping to do more romanticizing of mundane little things this year, so thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. And I'll let you know how the scones are.